Hey gang, I'm Professor Feeser, and in today's video we're going to build an app, specifically a role-playing game that showcases all the skills we've learned so far. Nothing new coming at us besides arranging all of these ideas into a single application. If you find yourself lost at any time, go back to the beginning of this playlist and rewatch the videos up till now. But if you think you're ready to start coding, go ahead and open a code space within the repository you're working from. You either have one already created you can connect to, or you can make one now. Once you have a code space open, create a file and name it random.rpg.py. Now, up till now, I have always live coded our solutions together. However, this solution, I believe, is about 74 lines. It's 92 lines long. Less than that if we got rid of the spaces, but it's much more than we've looked at so far. In the name of time, I decided it made more sense to write out an app and then have us discuss it line by line, then try to discuss it and code it at the same time. Gang, let's start on line 1. This is our shebang. This is a path in Linux. It's basically saying there's an environmental variable called Python. What does it say? What path does the environmental variable Python reveal? And the reason we're doing that is because that path that environmental variable would hold would ultimately be the assumedly default version of Python we should be using on that system. If nothing else, it's a big flashing light to the world that this is a Python script. Run it with Python. This is our documentation string. It gives us, it's probably the longest one we've seen up till now. It should give a short synopsis of what the app is going to do. We're walking on the road to Ravenmoore. The user presses enter to advance the game. Enemy, item, or nothing may occur. You can fight or run. If you run into an item, that item's been found. Nothing means nothing happened that turn. Standard library, import random. Just because random's part of the standard library doesn't mean it's available within our script. We still have to import it, but we didn't have to install it. We got it when we installed Python. Def main, that's the main function. Runtime code is a documentation string on this function. That's a best practice mark. Here's a comment game initialization. So all of this is data that's going to be required in order for the game to ultimately run. We have something called inventory, which is an empty list. We have health, which is set to 10. We have items, which is a list containing sword, shield, and healing herbs. And we have items, which is a list containing goblin, skeleton, wolf, and bandit. Our comments here are inventory, health, items that can be found, and enemies. When the game starts, we've already talked about how we count up. We do that with range. You do that with range. In fact, if you said, well, wouldn't I take the range of 20, 0 to 19? Isn't that what we learned? It is. It is. However, people don't think about being on turn 0. They think about being on turn 1. So what 1, 21 means is start at the number 1. Go up to 21 non-inclusive. So another way of saying this is start at 1, work up to 20. For turn in range of 1 to 21, we are counting, stepping by 1 each time. we announce the turn. So right there, we wouldn't want to say turn 0, you take another step towards Ravenmoore. No, turn 1, you take another step towards Ravenmoore. We then use the random library. We use it to select the choice function. And the choice function wants a list passed to it. It wants to select an item from that list. So nothing, item, enemy, one of those is going to get selected and passed to the word event. Notice this is all indented under this for loop. So this is all the first turn. It says turn 1 begins. And right at the top of turn 1, it's actually making the decision, what just happened in this turn? We then check it. Did you select nothing? If nothing was randomly selected, we say the road is quiet, nothing happens. Else, if it was item. That was the other thing that could happen. If it's item, what do? We say, well, go ahead and make a random choice of the items that can be in the game. It's either a sword, a shield, or healing herbs have occurred. So if it's an item, what do? Make a random item selection. If that's healing herbs, print out, you found healing herbs. They increase your hit points by 1, and we increase hit points by 1. Health plus equals 1 is the same as health equals health plus 1. So whatever this value is, it just went up by 1. If it was at 10, it went to 11. But maybe we didn't select healing herbs. Maybe found items not in inventory. We then just want to add it to the inventory. In this case, it would be a sword or a shield is what's left. But the way that's written, healing herbs assumedly are consumed, so they're not going to be added to the inventory. Else, if the item's not in the inventory, it goes in. Sword, shield, but we could add, anything we wanted to that list. Helmet, armor. And this code would work. It's just you can't have duplicates of an item, apparently. We add it to the end. We say, hey, you found this. Yep, in all other cases it says, you found this, but you already have one. You can't have duplicates is what it implies. Next, we see, okay, if it wasn't an enemy, or if it wasn't a nothing, and if it wasn't an item, maybe it was an enemy. It must be, but room to grow, we could add more events here. Right now we're checking, okay, was it an enemy? Notice that is in line with item. That is in line with nothing. If nothing, this happens. If item, all this indented stuff happens. If enemy, all this indented stuff happens. That's all of this from line 46 down to 69 is all if we ran into the enemy, what happens? Well, the same way we had to select an item, we select an enemy. Okay, what's the bad guy we ran into? Then we announce it. Here's the enemy, skeleton, what was it? Wolf, bandit, goblin. Action, do you want to fight or run? Regardless of what they type in, we lower it to lowercase so we can test it. If you said fight, and if sword is in inventory, so you already found and picked up a sword, it'll say you bravely fight the enemy and win thanks to your sword. So you always win if you have a sword. And then it makes a random decision. See, random choice, true, false. That just means it's going to pick one of those. True evaluates as true. False evaluates as false. So we would say randomly these two lines happen. So if you have the sword, you always win. However, but you were injured in the fight and take 2 hit points. Health goes down by 2. Else, you have the shield in your inventory. It says you fight bravely, but with only a shield, the enemy injured you. So you're guaranteed to take 2 damage if you only have a shield. Else, you fight bravely, but without a sword or shield, you are injured. -3. So you always take 3 damage if you don't have a sword or a shield. Else, you might have typed run. You might have typed run. And we make a random decision. Either you successfully escaped or you didn't. If you managed to successfully escape, great. Else, the enemy catches up and hurts you. You take 2 damage. If you hesitate, the enemy attacks you for 3 damage. You take 3 damage. But here's the thing. The way this is written, the enemy is always defeated. It's just, are you going to take damage or not when the enemy's defeated? There's nothing that causes the enemy to reappear at the next turn. The next turn starts fresh again. If health less than or equal to 0, we then, you lost all your health and collapse. Break, exits. Your health hit 0, we have to exit. Otherwise, we print to the screen your health, we print to the screen your inventory, and then we say, hey, press enter to go into the next turn. That would take you back to the top of the loop, and down you go again. At the very end, after these 20 turns, we just make sure that your health's above 0, and if it is, congratulations, you must have made it to Ravenmoore. Otherwise, you did not reach the town of Ravenmoore. If you hit a 0 or less hit points on the last turn, you wouldn't make it. And that's the game. Admittedly, pretty simple, but if it works, if it shows us making selections from lists, if it shows us keeping, a current state through different, like a loop we come up with, it's lots of, these are called nested statements. This if statement is nested inside of the elif statement. That's starting to get to be pretty advanced code. Anytime you're nesting decisions inside of each other, that is an advanced line of thinking. So let's go ahead and run this. Upper right corner, hit play. It's saying, hey, you have a problem. The problem is I'm in a Python interpreter sometime there. The 3 lines on the side were showing it. If you ever get that, just kill all the terminals if something weird happens, and then you can go into terminal, new terminal. That'll be a brand new Linux terminal. Hit play again, it should work. All right, so turn 1, you take another step towards Ravenmoore. The road is quiet, nothing happens. I must have selected nothing. I hit enter. Uh-oh, there's a wolf. So I don't have a sword. I don't have a shield. I think the best thing I can do is run. There's a chance I get hurt, but I believe if I fight, I always get hurt. Okay, it caught up to me as I ran and it hurt me, but I got away. Press enter to go to the next turn. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Well, 6, nothing happens. 7, I ran into a wolf again. I'll run. I found a shield. Found healing herbs. I went up by 1 hit point. Still have the shield. I found the sword. So now I can start fighting. I believe my best probability of survival becomes fight from here on out. You found the sword, but I already have one. That's good. So I can't get doubles. I found healing herbs. Wow, I'm almost back up to 10 health. Only 6 more turns to go. Bandit, fight. All right. I win thanks to the sword. I didn't take damage. Bandit, fight. Okay, I win thanks to the sword, but I took 2 hit points. 17, 18, found a shield, fight the wolf. 20, fight the bandit. And okay, congratulations, you made it to Ravenmoore. Lots of ideas here, gang. When we look at this code we've written, it's pretty neat, honestly. Things that might make it better. Well, all the enemies behave the same. Certainly, I'm limited. I limited the combinations that we could have. You could have a sword. You could have a shield. You could have nothing. But I never coded for like you have a sword and a shield. Honestly, a really good RPG would probably assign like a basal attack, a sword attack, an armor class with the shield. The enemies would probably, we call these things stats, right? I probably want to put stats. And that might mean a dictionary. Maybe it's a list of dictionaries where sword is mapped to a dictionary of what the sword does. Goblin is mapped to a dictionary of what the goblin can do. Besides just the way I'm handling the data, I'd also probably want to put all this code into additional functions. It could live in separate files and make it easier to wrap my brain around what's happening. In main, sure, this game initialization's okay. The turn counting down from, or counting up, I guess, from 1 to 21 is, or 20 is fine. Printing things to the screen are fine. But this idea of making a random choice, the idea of evaluating the choice that's made, that belongs in its own function. This idea of evaluating how an enemy is handled, that belongs in a function. This idea that when you run, you know, there's a decision that's made and it's possible you're injured, that belongs in a function. All of this complexity should be called. And what that does is lets the readability of main to be preserved. It also increases our surface area by which we could apply coders to do work. If suddenly, you know, how we evaluate the choice that was made, if that belongs now suddenly in a function, great. When there's an error, it's very easy to isolate. When it even needs, you know, written or rewritten, it's very easy to assign a coder to that one file, that one function, and fix it or initialize it, refactor it, whatever it may be. So we would like that, but we haven't studied that yet. We said when we got started, ultimately, this is going to showcase our skill set that we currently have. Ultimately, it seems to do a pretty fantastic job. And if you want to experiment with improving it or maybe making it your own by adding different items or enemies, you certainly could. But we're going to call this one done. Let's go ahead and commit it, and we'll push it. Over on the left in source control, we're going to put capstone RPG. Hit plus on that file before you hit commit. Sync changes, okay. Make sure after you commit, you hop back to your repository, hit refresh, and just see that it says just now your random RPG showed up. Hey gang, great job making it through that script. I tried to go through it line by line with you. If you need to, connect to my repository. It's public. And you could copy the script from there as well. Make sure you change the comments. You're not RZFeeser. Change that stuff to yourself. Run it. Play around with some of the settings. Make sure you understand it before you do that. But that's why this repository is here. Alternatively, hit pause through the video and code it out yourself. You'll certainly learn a bit working that way. Gang, great job so far. Be sure to hit like if you learned something. Hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next episode of Code with Feeser.